This is the 2017 Ford Expedition, and this review almost didn't happen. I ran into a lot of problems with some rental cars that I had. Luckily, I was able to replace that car with the same car, which is a Ford Expedition. So I'll go over some differences of the three cars that I did drive over the past week and give you some information on all three of them, as well as try to show you what little bit of video I shot from each car. This particular one is the EL version, which is the extended long. I think that's what it stands for, because this rear section here is a lot longer than the regular version. The first Expedition that I drove was a Limited. It was not the EL. In the Limited, it had the standard features for the Limited, and it was four-wheel drive. It was the 3.5 liter twin turbo EcoBoost. The second car that I drove was an XLT, which was very basic and probably the basic features for the XLT. It was four-wheel drive and also had the 3.5 liter EcoBoost. And this one here is the Expedition Limited EL. It is two-wheel drive and it features the 3.5 liter V6 twin turbo. All three had a towing package, which is always nice, but I didn't test it out. In the Limited, we do have a proximity key for controlling remote start, unlocking the doors, and opening the rear hatch. The rear hatch is fully powered, up and down. And as we can see here in the back, as far as storage and space goes, this is a little section that's covers your jack. It stops here to here. This is standard in every single one of the Expeditions, but in the non-EL version, this here did not exist. The back of the third row was here. So with the EL, you get a little bit more luggage. We've got all three rows of seats up at this point, and we have a lot of storage back here. You could fit some pretty good sized suitcases. In the Limited, you do have power folding third row, so you just push the button and they begin folding. Same for sending them back up. You can do them both with the middle button, or you can do them one at a time. And now I'll send the other one. I leave the headrest down for visibility. You have a button in here that you can close the door with. So on the XLT, you didn't get any major upgrade on the rims. It was a smaller size rim. I don't know the exact size. It was pretty much the basic you could get. On the Limited, you do get this nicer, bigger rim. And this is the same rim that came with both Limited models that I drove. So you're probably asking yourself, well, why did you have so many problems and you ended up with three Expeditions? Well, the first one that I drove had bad tires. The car itself had 44,000 miles on it, and it was due for a tire change. I had two flat tires in the course of 2 days, and one was a blowout on interstate, and I just couldn't consciously drive that car unless it got new tires, and they weren't willing to do that for me. So I took it back and traded it for the XLT. I didn't know it was an XLT at the time, but you get what you get, I guess. This does have front parking sensors as well as rear parking sensors. The XLT had a backup camera and rear parking sensors, but did not have the front parking sensors. All three models, or two models in this case, did have halogen headlights and LED fog lights. One of the biggest things that you'll notice to tell a Limited versus an XLT are the color of the mirror. On the XLT, it was black. On the Limited, it is the color of the car. And as well as the running boards, they were solid black on the XLT, but in the Limited, they are the color of the car. I covered this in my first video, but I'm not sure if and where that's going to make its way into this video, so I'll cover it again. You do still have your Ford Intelligent Access where you know the code, you can punch it in and enter the car. The problem with this is, in the rental sense, I don't know the code. Most cars with proximity keys have some sort of button here on the door that I can push to unlock the door. This doesn't have one. On none of the models was this a feature. And actually in the XLT, push button start was not even an option. One of my favorite features is going to be this signal on the mirrors, on both mirrors. This is an LED signal, which just makes it very bright and very easy to see. This is also only available on the Limited. It does not come as an option on the XLT. I'll take a look at the outside of the car with all the lights on. Like I said, these are halogen, and it does feature like a projector for your low beam and then a widespread for your high beam. High beams work really well in this car. And then I do like the placement of this signal. It looks really nice. It goes along really well with the front. And then your LED fog lamps, which, I mean, you can really tell a difference. It is actually a gripe of mine because when you're driving down the road, you have these dim, kind of brown headlights, which is what a halogen looks like. And then you've got this bright white LED right in front of those. So you've got two different color lights. I'm not a crazy fan of that. But you know what, it works, and hopefully in the future they'll release something a little bit nicer for us on that. You do have your LED signal, which I am a huge fan of. I love that. If you're needing to merge into traffic and the car is beside you, they're not going to see this light here, and they can't see the one in the front. But if you have one on your mirror, a lot of people will be nice and slow down and let you in. A lot of people won't. To each his own, I guess. So for this particular car, this is the last year you can get this design. This is the 2017 design. In 2018, they have a whole new design, which goes, I mean, even the sides are completely different, not just the front. Everything is completely changed. I like the idea of the 2018 new design, but there are some drawbacks and a few things that you might want to be aware of. If you're a fan of the 6-speed transmission, you no longer can get that in the 2018. That comes standard with a 10-speed transmission. That wouldn't bother me, but the one thing that does is this is the last year you can get this model without auto start-stop. That is a standard feature on all of the 2018 Expeditions. With each model of the Expedition, we get different everything, and I'm going to try to explain just a little bit of how things were changed. So the first and foremost major changes, this one is not a four-wheel drive. So in the area where your four-wheel drive shift knob would be, you do have a coin holder. All the models did include a trailer brake, and I'm not sure if that's a standard feature on the Expedition, but all three that I drove did have a trailer brake. This area right here above the trailer brake is where it gets really weird and complicated. To your left is the button that opens your rear hatch with power. In the middle, in this particular car, is nothing. And then this is your traction control off button. In the first Expedition that I drove, all three of these were buttons. The middle was a grade braking for downhill assist. In the second Expedition, this was not a button because it didn't have a power hatch, but it also did have the grade braking. So I'm assuming grade braking is only a thing in the four-wheel drive model because it's not in this one. In the Limited, it does feature push button start, whereas the other XLT model I drove was a key. Not a fan of the key. In the XLT, you got a very small 4-inch screen, which was very not good. In both Limited models, you do get this touch screen, huge, nice screen with Sync 3 system on it. In this particular Expedition, it does not feature navigation. However, in the first Expedition that I drove, it did. So those features can just be, I don't know the actual standard set of features that each car has, but in this case, we don't have navigation. And really, I didn't miss it because I have navigation on my phone and I use the phone for that just as easily. You do have your audio, which I have off for the sake of copyright. I do have a USB stick, which is called New Volume. You've got a few options here: AM, FM, Sirius, CD, my phone, and the New Volume. It's important to note that FM and AM is FM is high definition capable. You do also have your climate controls, which you can set a temperature, which I really like that. It works perfectly. You set a temperature and you leave it. Put it on auto, you're done. You don't have to tell it what to do, what fan speed, etc. For the rear, you don't have that luxury. It is an on-off kind of thing like the older system, but it is also nice that you can control it from this, or you can just give the rear access to control their own air. The phone will take me into my phone settings, and it also does, because it's Sync 3, support Apple CarPlay. So I'm not going to click the phone just for the sake of maybe ending my video. You do have some apps that you can use along with your phone, like Pandora and etc. And then your settings. Settings is a little weird and spread out. You've got a lot of different options here that you can go to, and then there's a whole other set of pages that you can go to. There's only 2 pages on this one. On the other model, there were 3 pages because there were more for the navigation system. But in this one, we don't have navigation. The main settings that you would find in general don't always cover everything, and that's what makes things a little annoying, because you think settings is settings. I'm here to edit settings. That's not typically what it means, because there's settings, but over here there are actually vehicle settings, a complete different set of settings. So it's not quite as intuitive as I would expect, but it's a definite improvement from last year's Sync 2 or whatever they want to call it. Now, the Sync 3 voice recognition system is a whole lot better than Sync 2 or whatever it's called, but I still don't think it's on par with that of the Uconnect. I really like the Uconnect in the way that it can understand me and do what I want it to do, even if I don't say exactly what the command is I'm supposed to say. That brings me to CD, which is something very nice to still have in a vehicle. This is a 2017. A lot of car makers are abandoning the CD slot. Although this isn't a CD changer, it is still just a regular CD slot, and I like having that. I really don't understand why many car makers are abandoning that. Down here you've got your heated and cooled leather seats. They are perforated leather, so you've got that great cooling, heating ready for you. This should definitely be a standard feature on every car. In this case, it was only available on the limited editions. The XLT did not have nor heated or cooled. And then you've got your automatic climate controls, and each side can have its own temperature. I have them synced right now for the same temperature. Your gear shifter is the traditional gear shifter. You do have your select shift here with plus and minus, and you've also got an overdrive off button. Overdrive off works wonders when going down a mountain, because the car realizes I need to slow down, so it gears itself down to hold the car back. Really like that. You do have some options here for second and first gear as well if you want to do it like that, or you have the manual option where you can just do the buttons. 2 large size cup holders, which is always great. You've got your sync badge. In your center console, I've got my rental contract, and you do have 2 USB plugs. Both of these plugs talk with the Sync 3 system. So when I plug my phone into this one, Sync 3 recognizes my phone, pulls up CarPlay. When I plug this into that one, I have all my music ready to play, and I just leave it plugged in. You also have a 12-volt outlet here. This is a very deep container, and it holds a lot of stuff. It's not the same as the one in the other Limited that I drove, as it had like a pocket up here with a net. But maybe someone just stole the net out of this one, because it is a rental after all. I want to point out that up here on the mirror, this is an auto dimming mirror, I think is what they call it. I really couldn't notice a difference either way. There is a box behind the mirror, and this controls the rain sensing wipers. This is something that I was excited to try, because I've never tried Ford's version of the rain sensing wipers. I've tried Chevrolet, I've tried Jeep, but I've never tried Ford's. In the first Expedition, this box was not here. It was just a wire coming down, and this trailing wire was tucked back up in here. And I don't know what that meant. I don't have any idea why it was done that way, but the rain sensing wipers would not work in that car. They would come on extremely late, when it was way too late for you to be driving with your windshield like that. In this particular car, because this box is here, I'm assuming that controls it, it actually works perfectly, and I love it. It works no problems at all. Unfortunately, see, Jeep uses the same system to control their wipers and their automatic high beams. In this particular car, it does not have automatic high beams. That's kind of a disappointment, but honestly, it's still a very nice car, even though it lacks that feature. Usually I would give a car a strike for something like that. You know, a nice, easy feature that could easily be put in without sacrificing any kind of major cost, because you've already got a sensor up there. You know, maybe Ford's isn't like Jeep's, but Jeep's is a camera that runs both, and I don't know what Ford uses, but in either case, I'm not going to fault it for that, because honestly, I still like the car. So let's get up here to the driver's cluster. You do have two customizable screens on each side of the speedometer, and you do have a manual analog speedometer. Manual? No, analog speedometer. I like the digital, so I keep it up on the left screen. So let's cover the left screen a little bit. We can use the buttons here on the steering wheel to scroll up and down, left and right. So we can go down and have a look at what else we've got here. We've got the tachometer, if you want to keep that up. And then you can actually pull up a temperature gauge of the car. Here's your oil temperature, oil pressure, and transmission temperature. Here's your oil life, and how many miles you have until empty. That's a lot of miles. Now, this car, being a two-wheel drive, does feature a 28-gallon fuel tank, and it gets about 400 and something. I think it was 460 when I first filled it up. You go left and you'll be taken to a whole new set of menus, which is the tripometer, and that's where you can see my trip here. I got 18.1 miles per gallon average. That's since I picked the car up. I reset it yesterday just to do a little testing. I'm averaging 17.2 on that one. Fuel economy average 18.1, got 316 miles till empty. I'm not real sure how that works. And back to your trip. You do have your towing, so you can set up your trailer. You've got some off-road settings, so you can see the gain and all that of your vehicle. And then your settings, which is probably the most important part. So you can change your calculations from towing or normal. I keep them on normal because I'm not towing. But it can give you a more accurate miles till empty reading if you're towing. You do have your front park aid and your rear park aid, and you've got some more advanced settings. Under vehicle, you'll notice that we have a lot of different settings here for entry, easy entry, exit. Basically what this does is when you turn the car off, it moves the steering wheel up and away from you, and it moves your seat back. I don't like that, so I keep it off. Your lighting, you can change your auto lamp when it cuts off. For some reason, they had this completely off. I changed it to the highest possible setting because I enjoy having a little bit of light. On your locks, you can have it auto lock, auto unlock. And for your remote unlock, do you want it to do the driver's door, all doors? I'm actually going to change that because I prefer a little bit of difference. And this is a great thing. I love that you can just go through here and customize all this. You can reset your oil life. You can change your power lift gate to say, is it active or not? Your remote start. You can make it turn on your climate. You can make it warm up your seats. And you can make it run for 5, 10, or 15 minutes. I like 10. And then your wipers. Here's the courtesy wipe for when you throw your wipers, your washer across. And then rain sensing, on or off. When rain sensing is off, this works as an intermittent switch. But when rain sensing is on, as you can see, it was already on. The wipers aren't going across. They're waiting for something to happen. And then you're back to the top. And then as far as display setup, you can just change your distance and how it's miles, kilometers, etc. Temperature, Celsius, Fahrenheit, stuff like that. And then on the right screen, not quite as customizable. Your options are entertainment, compass, and phone. Entertainment obviously shows what you're currently playing and listening to, and you can use the up and down button to change, various things. AM, FM, Sirius, etc. Then you've got your compass, which isn't a bad thing. Tells you which direction you're heading. It's pretty nice. And then your phone. You can make a few changes with your phone from this screen, but honestly, I wouldn't suggest it. I would just use the main touch screen to make stuff with my phone. I don't really see why the phone would even have a place here, but whatever. I'm gonna leave it on compass because that's gonna change. It changes on its own. As I get a phone call, it changes to phone automatically, and so whatever, just let it do its thing. So on the steering wheel, let's just go over the controls. We've got the cruise control set, plus and minus, and your cruise control on and off, and then this button acts as a cancel resume. In each car, this layout was different, and I don't understand why. In the first Limited, we had resume, cancel, on, off, or the same way they are here, and set, the same way it is there. In the second Expedition that I drove, resume and cancel were both this button. This button was a dead button. I mean, I don't even know anymore. So it's hard to remember where each thing is as you change vehicles. But in this particular one, resume and cancel are the same button here. And yeah, pretty self-explanatory. It just takes a little getting used to because it changes throughout each vehicle. And then over here, you've got your regular sync button to talk to sync, your volume. And this here will change the current track or answer and hang up your phone, whichever one happens to be in use at that particular point in time. All of the Expeditions did feature a moonroof, power moonroof. You can change the, tilted open like so, or you can open it. The open is fully power. You just click it once and it does it. There is a third button up here that I discovered, which opens the rear windows way back there. And you may have seen it crack open, but whatever. Nice little feature. And you got two cup holders here for the back. Let's have a walk toward the back and continue looking around the car. One thing I did notice on Ford's website is it said that the Limited featured BLIS, which is blind spot information system. Neither of the Limiteds that I've received had blind spot information system, but they do have this nice blind spot mirror, which is a Ford standard feature because I have it on my edge here. So I do like this. This is perfectly positioned so that you can see the lane outside of where this mirror would normally see. Works flawless. And I trust that mirror way too much because one day I'm going to hit somebody. When you're driving a long vehicle like this, it's kind of hard to know when you can move over in the next lane. But these mirrors, especially the blind spot, make a huge difference when you're trying to navigate a car that you're not used to. For the back seat, we do still have leather. These seats can be heated. You've got some buttons. So this is your seat heater, and you've got your just basic, floor or whatever vent, and then your controls for how you want it to heat. It's just the basic. You also got some audio controls, so you can control the radio. You can turn it down or whatever. That's always a nice little feature. And then you've got a regular household plug and a 12-volt plug. Not seeing any USB plugs, but I guess it does have sufficient plugs. For such a big car, it's always nice to have this extra step because, you get short people or little people and they want to get in the car, and it's always nice to have that. So this is the bench setup. I'm pretty sure there is a bucket seat setup, but in all three cars that I've driven, they did have that. I do like that you can fold this center seat down, so it's not a 60-40 split. It's more of like a 40-40-20, which is always nice. This technically is a bucket seat. I don't know if this seat's removable or not, but that's nice that you can fold that seat down like that. And in either case, when you want to fold the seat down, I'm sure it's real simple because I've never done it. That's how you fold the headrest down. You just pull this pull this string here. So the rear seat's back there, and like I said, I've never done it. So there's probably some instructions here. Let's see. Lift this up. Yep, that's it. Oh, I didn't pull my headrest. So I would imagine it's probably a lot easier than, how I'm doing it, but is that it? Oh, I'll pull this now. There we go. And hey, a free popsicle stick, because you know, that's not a popsicle stick. It looks like a fruit by the foot rental. But yeah, so there's your third row. Easy access. Like I said, if I knew what I was doing, probably wouldn't have been that hard, but I've never done it, so. That's pretty much as I can think to cover about this car, to be perfectly honest with you. So, I don't think I finished why I ended up trading. So, aside from the rain sensing wipers not working on the first one, I did have some tire problems. I told you about that. While on interstate, the passenger side rear tire blew out, and we heard it pop, and we wasn't real sure what was going on. And immediately on the dash, the car started reporting a low tire pressure, and I knew something had to be wrong. So I stopped it onto the side of the road, and sure enough, this tire was completely flat. It was raining so hard. And we called up Enterprise roadside assistance and said, listen, we've got a flat tire. We're not going to be able to change it. We're in the mud here, you know. There's no way. Now, all these cars do feature a full-size spare tire up under here, which is always nice. And to release that, I did learn that you have to do it from inside the car. See, some Fords, they have little areas here where you just stick and you spin it and it drops. In this particular one, that's not the case. Underneath the jack is some sort of little thing that you twist, and the tool to twist it is inside this pouch here with the jack. So you twist it and it slowly lowers the wheel down underneath the car. So after fighting a flat tire with the first Expedition, I brought it home. Actually, I took it to Clark Tire, which is a authorized service center through Enterprise. Got that fixed, brought the Expedition home, parked it, got in it the next morning, and this tire was flat. And I'm like, what in the world? So it actually had about 15 psi in it, so I limped it to a nearby air compressor, pumped it up to about 35, got all of them to 35. I drove it to Charlotte, which is a 2-hour drive each way, so 4 hours on the road. Got it home, and when I parked it, we were at 17 psi. So I aired it up one more time, took it back to them, and told them to shove it. Not really. Something like that. We can look at the engine while I'm talking. So they replaced it with a XLT model, which I didn't realize that they carried crappy models like the XLT. I was very dissatisfied. It was cloth seats. It was a 4-inch touchscreen, or was it touchscreen? I don't even know if it was touchscreen. It was such basic. It was the basic system you could ever find. You know what? It helps if you know how to open the hood before you start trying. So this is an auto open hood. It's, you know, it's one of those with the things on it so you don't have to prop it up. I like that. As you can see, it's a 3.5 liter V6 EcoBoost. Does have a twin turbo. It has plenty of power. I have no complaints with that. So I actually was trying to get into a 2017 GMC Yukon. That was an option when I picked this car up. They said I could take the Expedition or the Yukon, and I chose the Expedition because of the V6 twin turbo, just because I felt like that would probably give me better gas mileage than the Yukon would. I found that I should have chosen the Yukon because it probably would not have had as many problems as the first car I had. But it didn't work out. I didn't end up getting a Yukon replacement, but they did get this one, and I thought, well, I'll take it. And actually, on the day of picking up this vehicle, I noticed that when I would signal to the left, it would blink really fast, and that usually means that there's a light out. And so sure enough, this light here on the rear was out, rather than fighting to try and get another car, a fourth car for the week, and just constant hassle of enterprise, I decided to go buy a $7 light bulb and replace it myself. I will hand them the receipt when I return the car. They probably won't reimburse me, but whatever. Ford, one of the first to come out with this capless fuel filler, really like this. It's as simple as opening this up and sticking the hose in. And when you're done, take it out and you're done. There's nothing more to do. This car was taken down a road that was just paved before I got it. So it's kind of nasty and there's nothing I can do to fix that. So, all right, well, I hope you guys enjoyed this remake of the review, because I did a very short, not so good review of the very first one that I drove. And I tried to do a review of the second one that I drove, but I just disliked it so much that I couldn't say anything good about it. So I ended up not even using that review. So hopefully this third review, third time's a charm, on the third car can suffice for a proper review. In Enterprise Rentals, by the way, they have changed how satellite radio works, so I am no longer able to test the reception quality of vehicles in satellite radio unless I'm willing to pay them $25 per rental to turn on satellite radio. That's not going to happen. So I'll no longer be able to test satellite radio reception in these vehicles, but I'm sure it's fine because all Fords that I've ever driven, I've never had a problem. All right, well, I'll see you guys later. Here are the deleted scenes that were simply not used in the review if you care to see them. This is the 2017 Ford Expedition, and I would give you a outdoor look and walk around, but it has been cold and windy, so I'm going to stop right here at this church right quick and get a quick walk around of the car. Then I'll come back and talk to you guys about it, because you probably won't be able to hear me while I'm outside. 2017 was the last year that you could get this model, or this design. Just try not to close that door so the alarm won't go off. It does beep twice if you leave the car with a key. So this is the last year for this design. They now have a whole new design for 2018, which honestly, I'm like, why would you buy a 2017 when you can get the 2018 design? But you know, there may be some pros and cons to that. This is the last year that you can get this car without start-stop, which is kind of a big deal for a lot of people. I'm going to go ahead and point out one thing while I'm here. We have all these nice little buttons to unlock the door with if you know the code, but there's no proximity button. So you end up having to use the key fob anyway, and it's kind of annoying. Back to the car though. Last year you'll be able to get a 6-speed transmission in it. This one does have the twin turbo V6 EcoBoost, which is pretty nice. You know, thinking it looks more like a truck, you'd think it would be more like a Ford F-150, but it doesn't have the dip in the door here like the F-150 does. I do like the signals on the mirrors. You can barely see them in the day, but when you're directly behind the car, lower than the height of the driver, you can see them really good. But at this height, you can't see them that well. This car does come with Sync 3, which is all new for Ford, and I didn't hate it. It's useful, but it's still not there. It's nothing like the Uconnect in my opinion. When you use your voice commands, it's like sometimes it understands, sometimes it doesn't. Like I said, it does have push button start and the proximity key, but in order to get into the car, you still have to use a button on the door, and it's, you know, or rather there's no button on the door, so you have to use the actual key. It does have remote start. Overall, I like this car. You know, knowing that there's a 2017 out there, or a 2018 rather, whole new design, kind of makes you think, oh, maybe I should go for that instead. But not a bad car. I have been having a lot of problems with this particular car, which I'm not going to say that all Expeditions are like this. I'm just saying that this particular car, I've had a lot of issues. One of those being I keep getting a low tire every day, and twice today. So I am taking it to trade it. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go over here and put some air in the tire, and then we're going to go trade it, because that's what we're going to do. So other issues that I'm having, rain sensing wipers don't work. That's an issue. So yeah, just overall, it's a nice car, but this particular one is giving me some issues. So let's go put some air in the tires, and I'll see you guys later. Sorry this wasn't much of a review, but it will do, I guess. I will review whatever I get next. They said they have another Expedition or a few standard SUVs. I'll probably just go with a standard SUV. I don't need an Expedition, but who knows? My original review of the 2017 Ford Expedition was cut real short because of some tire problems that I was having. And that is solely Enterprise's problem, not the Expedition's problem. The first problem that I had was while driving down interstate, a tire blew on me, and I had to take it to a tire shop to get it fixed, and of course that was at Enterprise's expense. And immediately after, another rear tire, the other rear tire, began to leak air at a very fast rate. So the tires were completely wore out. They did not pass the penny test, you know, where you put your penny down on the tread and see if you can still see the head of the penny behind the tread. It would not have passed the test, and they informed me when I got the Expedition that it was on its way out. It was being sold as soon as I brought it back. So that complete review was cut short. That was a very nice Expedition compared to what we have here, as you might can tell just from this view. We are in a 2017 Ford Expedition EL, and this is just the XLT model, so there are no special features. We do have four-wheel drive. We don't have the power lift gate in this one like we did the other one. We don't have the big navigation Sync 3 touchscreen like we did in the other one. A lot of things are, even to the dash up here is not digital to the sense that the other Expedition was. So there are a lot of lacking features. This one does have a moonroof though, so it has some features. The interior is cloth. It does have 3 rows. And we'll take a quick look around the car and in the back as soon as I park up here at my house. The other Expedition being white, this one here is silver. And it doesn't look too bad on the outside. It looks about like the other one actually. There are a few minor key things. This one doesn't have front parking sensors, whereas the other one did. Sorry about the wind. The running boards don't match the color of the car. Can't remember if the mirrors did. There are no signals on the mirrors this time. And it is the EL. It is huge in the back end. A lot bigger. And the other one, I left my third row folded down at all times, simply because of the lack of space. This right here, this area, is the same, and it stopped here. The space stopped here when the third row was up. But as you can see, we've got a whole other area here, and I'm not sure what's, just some storage. And that third row is up. So you can see that there. So, this one does have a towing package as well. This is an EcoBoost. I'm not sure which engine this one has. I will check that though. We could check that right now, but I'm going to look right here just a second. Does have some rear air controls, not like the other one had. These are not nearly as smart. There are no heated seats in this one. But like I said, we do have the moonroof still, so that's all good. One final thought I wanted to add to this review is that in the non-EL version, although you don't get much space in the back, I noticed that it wasn't quite as rough with your items in the back as the EL version is. It seems when you take a turn, the wheelbase is the same, but the car is longer, so that everything in the very rear of the car gets slung around a lot more. And that could just be my driving habits, but in my personal experience, I found that things didn't really ride as smooth in the EL version as far as if it's in the very back. But that's just me. Thanks for watching my review, and be sure to leave me a comment and let me know what you think.